lost my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Join me on Patreon to watch up to 5 episodes of this series and others in advance that are live right now. With that said, enjoy. Variety. Something many desire but few truly have. It's the spice of life, the thing that keeps existence from feeling dull. Within the vast empire of the Frieza Force, variety was in no short supply. The ship bustled with beings from every corner of the galaxy, creatures of different shapes, colors, and cultures, all united under one banner, Frieza's rule. Despite their differences, they shared one thing in common. They served their emperor with absolute loyalty. There was no room for personal grudges or petty arguments. Business came first. Survival depended on it. But Raditz? Raditz never quite fit in. Even among the many Saiyans who worked under Frieza's command, he stood apart. He was the only Saiyan chosen to accompany the tyrant himself on his personal ship, traveling from planet to planet, from galaxy to galaxy. That kind of privilege was usually reserved for Frieza's top warriors. Yet for reasons he didn't fully understand, the young boy found himself among them. He spent most of his days healing in the rejuvenation chamber, or locked in grueling sessions within the training room. Those were his orders, directly from Frieza. And the ones tasked with his training, Abo and Kado, were making his life miserable. Their constant smirks, their endless teasing, it wore on his nerves. Still, orders were orders. Defying Frieza was not an option. Whenever Raditz sat down in the dining hall, he could feel the stares boring into his back. Soldiers from every race whispered among themselves, their scouters flickering with curiosity or contempt. He could easily knock the heads off a few of them if he wanted to, but their silent judgment made his fur bristle. His tail swished anxiously behind him, flicking side to side like a restless pendulum. I miss home. That thought had been echoing in his head for weeks now. He never thought he'd say it, but he missed planet Vegeta. He missed the quiet moments between missions, sitting around and waiting for his next assignment. At least there, he could breathe. Here, every moment felt like he was walking on eggshells. He wondered if his father, Bardock, ever tried to look for him. Probably not. The man barely spoke after Gein's death, and Raditz doubted that his old man cared about much anymore. Still, a small part of him wished Bardock did. Wished he'd come bursting through those cold metal doors and take him home. But he knew better. Bardock had probably written him off as another casualty of war. A soft beep broke his thoughts. PIP. Combatant Raditz, Lord Frieza requests your presence immediately. About time, Raditz muttered, a flicker of excitement stirring beneath his tired eyes. If Frieza wanted to see him personally, that could only mean one thing, a real mission. Not another sparring session, not another lecture, a chance to prove himself. He gulped down the last of his water and stood, straightening his armor and adjusting his scouter. Still, something felt off, like I'm forgetting something. Before heading to Frieza's chamber, he returned to his small quarters, a plain 6x8 room, bare except for a bed, table, and storage locker. His gaze immediately fell upon the object resting on the table, Vosa's armband. He stepped forward, fingers brushing over the worn fabric before slipping it onto his arm. A gift from a warrior who had fallen long before she should have. Her courage in battle had taught him something invaluable. That fear meant nothing if you faced it head on. When he thought he was going to die on planet Chu, it was her memory that made him rise again, bloodied and broken, ready to fight. He wasn't a coward anymore, not Raditz, not Bardock's son. The training with Abo and Kado, the pain, the punishment, it had all paid off. His power level now soared past 3,000, enough to make him one of the stronger fighters under Frieza's command. Back home, he would have been standing proudly among the middle-class warriors beside his father. He tightened his fist. I'm ready. Meanwhile, in Frieza's command chamber, the Emperor lounged upon his hovering throne, tail curling lazily behind him as his lieutenants stood at attention. Dodoria, Zarbon, Abo, Kado, and the ever-observant Blue and Kokono surrounded a holographic display of a distant world.
So it's really just a race of weaklings, Dodoria snorted, arms crossed.
Frieza chuckled lightly, the sound both elegant and chilling.
Oh, Dodoria, you always fail to see the bigger picture.
His crimson eyes glinted as he zoomed in on the hologram.
Planet Risen's creatures are
deceptively dangerous.
One survivor reported his entire squad perished after being stung by the natives.
Nasty things, really. Their venom eats through armor and flesh in seconds.
Seriously?
Dodoria grimaced, his pink skin paling slightly.
Frieza nodded, amused by his reaction.
Indeed.
Abo, Kato, and our young Saiyan friend will each be equipped with 3 units of antitoxin serum. They'll find them on the ship prepared for this mission. Should you encounter these creatures, I suggest you inject yourselves immediately.
His smile darkened.
Failure to do so will result in quite the gruesome spectacle.
Yes, Lord Frieza, Kato replied with a bow.
Abo giggled under his breath, earning a sharp elbow to the ribs from his brother.
Frieza's eyes flicked toward the door. Now then, let's see if our little Saiyan pup is as promising as I believe he might be.
And somewhere down the hall, Raditz walked steadily toward his fate.
The moment Raditz entered the grand chamber, the air seemed to grow heavier.
He walked calmly, his boots echoing faintly against the metallic floor as he came to stand beside Abo and Kato.
Without hesitation, he dropped to one knee, bowing his head.
At your service, Lord Frieza.
Frieza smiled, his crimson eyes gleaming with amusement.
Ah, glad you could join us, my boy, he purred. We were just discussing your next assignment, Planet Risen, orbiting Star 50.
The inhabitants are simple-minded creatures, though deceptively dangerous. I'm sure Abo and Kato will be delighted to brief you on the finer details during your journey. His tone carried that chilling politeness only Frieza could manage.
Now then, dismissed. That was all. No praise, no warmth, just cold authority.
Raditz rose to his feet, his sharp eyes catching the faintest twitch of Abo and Kato's shoulders. Silent laughter. He could feel them snickering even without a sound escaping their mouths. He bit his tongue. Working with those two was torture. He would have rather been paired with Prince Vegeta himself. At least Vegeta took things seriously.
As soon as the door slid open behind him, a heavy hand slapped his back.
Better be ready, kid, Abo chuckled, his tone dripping with smugness.
Raditz said nothing, his tail flicking irritably. Inside, his mind was a storm. He knew nothing about Planet Risen, its people, its terrain, or what kind of threats it held. Questions ran wild in his head. What kind of creatures lived there? What are their defenses? How do we even fight something that lives underwater? He asked. Once? Twice? But Abo and Kato just laughed. You'll see when we get there, they said. Keeps things exciting. Yeah, right, Raditz thought bitterly. Exciting for who?
Planet Risen was stunning, breathtaking even. The moment their ship descended through the thin white clouds, the view opened into an endless ocean of sapphire blue. The sunlight scattered across the water like a sea of diamonds, illuminating the world's pure, almost divine beauty. 90% of the planet was water, broken only by clusters of small emerald green islands, each dotted with tall, thin trees that swayed gently in the breeze. From the sky, it looked like a paradise, peaceful, untouched.
But Raditz knew better. Frieza never sent them to paradise. The planet's gravity was strange, so light that every step felt like walking on air. Abo, Kato, and Raditz had to push down with effort just to stay grounded. Otherwise, they'd drift like balloons. Kato took a slow look around, awe flickering in his eyes. What a beautiful world, he muttered, his voice unusually calm.
Abo grinned wide, cracking his knuckles. Yeah, too bad we have to ruin it. He turned to Raditz, his smirk curling. I hope all that training wasn't for nothing, brat. Show us you're worth the trouble.
Raditz's jaw clenched. Just point me to the target. But inside, a flicker of unease stirred. The last real mission he had been on, Planet Chew, was a nightmare, a setup that nearly cost him his life. He wasn't about to let these two drag him into another disaster. He scanned the landscape again. Where are the oxygen masks? Abo and Kato turned toward each other in perfect sync. They stared for a long second, then burst into loud, wheezing laughter, clutching their stomachs as they doubled over. Raditz frowned. "What the hell is wrong with you two?" "Kid," Abo wheezed, wiping a tear from his eye. "You actually think we're going in the water?" Kato joined in, shaking his head. "With all that hair of yours, you'd sink faster than a boulder. Probably break your neck trying to swim." Raditz's glare hardened. "So, what's the plan then, geniuses?" Abo's grin widened. "So we do this!" With a sudden burst of energy, Abo shot into the air, raising his hand high above his head. A brilliant blue sphere of Kai began to form in his palm, crackling with energy. Kato followed instantly, mirroring his brother. Their twin auras flared like twin suns as they hovered side by side, hands glowing with pure power. Raditz crossed his arms, watching silently. Whatever they were planning, he wanted to see it for himself. Double blaster wave. Both brothers hurled their attacks downward. The twin blasts screamed through the air, crashing into the vast ocean below. A deafening explosion followed. Boom! Sending water erupting hundreds of meters high, a colossal wave of steam and light bursting outward. The shockwave nearly knocked Raditz off his feet. He shielded his eyes as a blinding flash swallowed the horizon, the air vibrating from the sheer force of the blast. When the smoke cleared, an eerie silence fell over the world. Below them, the water had been split apart. An enormous crater had formed where the ocean once was, its depths vanishing into a black, glowing abyss. The entire planet trembled. Then, from the churning depths, shapes began to rise. Dozens, no, hundreds of glowing figures, translucent and fluid, like living glass, emerging as if summoned by divine command. The Risens had awakened. As dozens upon dozens of the creatures emerged from the dark depths below, Abo, Kato, and Raditz stared in confusion. The ground beneath them shook as the strange beings slithered up, each one with long, twisting tentacles and square-shaped heads that glowed faintly in the dim light. Instinctively, the trio pressed their scouters, hoping to get a power level reading. But the devices stayed silent. Not a single beep. Nothing. "What the hell is wrong with these things?" Raditz barked, slapping the side of his scouter. Abo squinted. They don't even have bones," he muttered, disgusted. "Just tentacles and those creepy box heads." Before they could analyze any further, Raditz's instincts kicked in. "Watch behind you, fools," he shouted. Abo and Kato spun around instantly. A swarm of the creatures, Risens, rushed at them from behind. The brothers shot apart in opposite directions, barely dodging the slow but relentless charge. The real danger wasn't their speed. It was the mystery surrounding them. They couldn't track their power levels, couldn't even sense their energy. That kind of uncertainty could get anyone killed. From a distance, Abo and Kato exchanged a quick glance and nodded. They didn't need words. Both understood that getting too close to those things was asking for trouble. Without hesitation, the brothers rocketed high into the air, their auras flaring. From above, they began raining down energy blasts, wiping out Risens one after another in bursts of blinding light. "Blast storm!" Abo shouted as a sphere of energy erupted from his palms, tearing through a cluster of the creatures. "Let's clean this up fast," Kato smirked, firing off his own volley. Below, Raditz grinned darkly. Unlike the twins, the young Saiyan had his own preferred way of dealing with enemies. He wanted to feel every hit, every impact. That was the Saiyan way. Leaping from one Risen to another, he threw powerful single strikes, crushing skulls, caving in bodies, ending each one with brutal efficiency. Each blow landed with bone-shattering force, the air cracking with every strike. Wham, crack, thud. Though these creatures were weak, Raditz moved with lethal grace, his punches and kicks sharp, precise, and devastating. His combat style was a violent dance, close quarters mastery mixed with explosive bursts of power. In moments, he had wiped out as many as Abo and Kato combined. But this wasn't just fighting for him, it was venting. Every punch carried anger, every kick carried pain. The betrayal of Prince Vegeta, the death of his mother, the loss of comrades, all of it boiled inside him. His rage fueled every movement, his attacks more vicious with each swing. "Ha! Die!" he roared, driving his fist through another Risen's chest. He wasn't fighting the creatures anymore. He was fighting his past. But then he slipped. Tentacles shot out from the shadows, wrapping tightly around his arm. What the? He yanked back, tearing free, but more of them lunged, snaring him again. In seconds, his body was bound. Tentacles coiled around his neck, shoulders, and waist. "Let go of me!" he shouted, struggling violently. Then came the pain. Thousands of volts of electricity surged through his body. His muscles locked up. His vision flashed white. The scream that tore from his throat echoed across the battlefield, shaking the sky. Ah! He convulsed, his body trembling uncontrollably as waves of electricity and venom surged through him. "Help!" he howled. From above, Abo froze midair. "Uh-oh," he muttered, glancing at Kato. Kato sighed. "Shh, this idiot?" They didn't care much for Raditz, but they both knew one thing. If the kid died, Lord Frieza would have their heads mounted on a spike before the day was over. Without hesitation, they darted down toward the struggling Saiyan. Energy crackled around their hands as they blasted away the Risens, holding Raditz captive, obliterating them into nothing but ash and smoke. Raditz's body fell limply toward the ground, his eyes rolling back, foam spilling from his mouth. Kato dove and caught him before he hit the water, landing softly on solid ground. The young Saiyan was twitching uncontrollably, his body jerking like a puppet on strings. His skin was pale, his lips blue, and his eyes wide open but unfocused. He gasped weakly for air, but nothing came. Kato crouched beside him, folding his arms and chuckling. "Oops, guess we forgot to tell you what these things can do. Frieza warned us about them during the briefing, but..." He shrugged. "You showed up late, brat." That's what happens when you're not punctual in this line of work. You miss out on the little details that keep you alive. Raditz's face turned red and puffy as his throat swelled shut. His breath came in ragged, wheezing gasps before stopping entirely. Kato sighed, rolling his eyes. "As much as I'd love to let an idiot die for his own mistakes," he smirked, "I'm not stupid enough to explain your death to Frieza." Reaching into his belt, Kato pulled out a small metallic injector filled with a glowing green fluid. Without hesitation, he jabbed it into Raditz's neck and pressed the trigger. The antidote hissed as it entered his bloodstream. Abo landed beside him, brushing off his hands. "He gonna live?" Kato nodded, standing up. "Yeah, the cure's fast, but it's gonna hurt like hell when he wakes up. He'll need rest." "Good," Abo said, cracking his neck. "Let's finish this up." "Let's." Both took off in blurs of energy, vanishing into the distance. Meanwhile, Raditz's fingers twitched. He tried to move, but even the smallest motion sent a surge of unbearable pain through his body. It was like being stabbed with 1,000 needles all at once. Still, he gritted his teeth, the faintest spark of defiance flickering in his chest. He was alive. And for now, that was enough. Raditz couldn't help the thought that nagged at the back of his head. What if Vegeta had been there? What if Vegeta had held the cure in his hand? Would he have handed it over or watched him die? Kato had thrown insults while Raditz lay helpless, yet the two of them still saved his life. That single act already felt like more than what Vegeta would have done. Maybe, against all his pride, Raditz was a little lucky to be tied to these fools after all. When the mission ended, the three went straight to Frieza to file their report. Zarbon, Dodoria, Kikuno, and Bertblue watched Abo and Kato with that weighty, disappointed look parents give a child who's misbehaved. Frieza, however, never stopped studying Raditz. The boy looked awkward and battered, far from the confident face he'd shown before leaving on the assignment. For a long moment, no one spoke. Frieza didn't even greet them after they bowed. Silence sat heavy in the room, settling around the group like a slow fog. Abo and Kado shifted uneasily. They had followed orders exactly, at least they thought so.
Now, from what I'm aware of, the mission was carried out nicely, Frieza finally said, the words cutting through the stillness.
Yes, my lord, Abo and Kado answered together in perfect sync. Frieza's eyes flicked toward Raditz. The kid hadn't met his gaze. Raditz bit his lip, feeling the ache in his body. He tried to hide it, but Frieza was too sharp when he chose to be. Now, Abo and Kado. You two are among my best men in the Frieza Force, the best working duo, with Dodoria and Zarbon not far behind. You're not only powerful, you're efficient. Seeing how your duties on Planet Risen were handled surprises me not at all. You cleared the field as quickly as anyone could expect. Thank you, sire. They stood straighter at the praise. But, Frieza said, the tiny but pulled the air out of them. Frieza praised them, and then a but. That meant a command had been ignored. I vividly recall ordering both of you to notify this young soldier of the risk that comes with interacting with those creatures. He held up his hands before they could speak, a silent demand for quiet. I don't want excuses. Every word I speak is chosen carefully, and I mean what I say. So next time you even consider disobeying a simple order, do not return. If you do, you will not be found. Are we at an understanding? Abo and Kado rose. Yes, sir. You two are dismissed.
As the brothers turned, Frieza's gaze swung back to Raditz, who had been about to follow them. I said two, meaning you are excluded. I wish to speak with you, young one. Raditz stopped. He let out a soft sigh. All he wanted was his bunk, sleep, to wake up and feel the pain gone. He told himself he could hold on a little longer and grin through the tyrant until he was free to lie down.
How can I be of service? He asked. Even saying it felt like doing push-ups with no breaks. His vision blurred and the world still rocked. He needed rest more than anything.
You can be of service by letting either me, Dodoria, or Zarbon know whenever another member of the Frieza Force treats you without proper respect, Frieza said.
Dodoria leaned forward. What Abo and Kado did could have cost you your life, kid. Everyone here knows Frieza sees something in you. That breeds jealousy. He sees your loyalty and the promise you hold. Those qualities make you one of our greater assets. And for that reason, you should be treated as any other elite soldier, Zarbon added smoothly. Frieza smiled. Couldn't have said it better myself, gentlemen. He gestured with a thin, precise motion, and his hover chair rolled closer to Raditz. Zarbon and Dodoria will watch over you when I cannot. I did not pull you close to me to have you act like a common soldier. You, Raditz, are more than that. Barablu's voice was blunt, but oddly helpful. And don't be a pushover. Stand up for yourself, and your harassers will back off. If they don't, come to any of us and we'll handle it. Raditz listened in stunned silence. He had heard stories. Frieza's reputation for coldness and sudden, ruthless judgment was almost a legend. Soldiers died for a single mistake. He'd believed loyalty bought nothing but orders. Now, taken aback by the words and the attention, Raditz reached a new, simple conclusion. Stay loyal and follow orders, and maybe Frieza would look after him too. Though it hurt, Raditz bowed. T-dash. Frieza stepped forward and gripped Raditz's chin, lifting the young man's face so he couldn't finish the formal bow. The other officers, Dodoria, Zarbon, Berryblue, even Kikono, stared, surprised at Frieza's sudden roughness. No need to bow. Go rest and return when you wake. I have another assignment that needs completing. Raditz nodded.
You're dismissed.
He left with a smile he hadn't felt before, small but real. As he turned left toward his quarters, he saw Abo and Kado talking with a few soldiers in the corridor. The brothers glanced at him for a split second and then looked away. Raditz met their stare with sharp, cold eyes. So, Kado saved him. So what? In Raditz's mind, they'd put him in that position to begin with. Their day will come, he muttered under his breath as he walked on. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.